From bathrooms to drywall to pavers, we've all seen the big remodeling projects on This Old House and Hometime. Today, we'll take a look at a remodel in Springfield, where we'll talk to the homeowners, the project coordinator, and some of the area companies that played a role in the project. That's next on inLife. This program is brought to you in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and through the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you. Funding for art segments on inLife is provided by the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency. When a couple sets out to remodel a house, it can either be the start of their dream home or the beginning of the end of their marriage. But if done right and properly planned, the ideas and concepts that each party has can make it to reality. Hi, I'm Becky Cramblit. Welcome to this edition of inLife. Today, we're in Springfield at the home of Tom and Dee O'Brien. This ranch has some of the typical things you'd find in one built in the 1950s. It's about 2,300 square feet with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2-car garage, and a basement. With Tom and Dee already living in the neighborhood and ready to downsize, it didn't stay on the market long. Once they bought it, they wanted to make it their own and fit their styles and needs. For that, they turned to designer Carol Edwards. We've come into the project a little more than halfway through. The drywall has been installed, some of the trim is up, and there's paint on some of the walls. But to take us from the beginning, we met up with Tom and Dee on site.
Well, I really had my eye on this house for a long time. I love this house, and we just live about a 5-iron shot away from here. So when the house went on the market, I called Dee, and we came over here and looked at it, and it's right for us. Our house now, we're on 4 levels, and you know, at this age, we think about what are we going to do if we weren't able to go up and down stairs. So this house is on 1 level, we're on 4 levels at the other house. It's just perfect for us. It's down, it's smaller than our present house, so it was the right place, I thought. And Dee saw it and agreed.
We wanted it to both downsize and get to 1 level. We had to first decide were we going to stay in Springfield.
Right.
And so that decision actually was made before this house ever went on the market. So then it became an issue of what kind of place did we want? Did we want a condo? Did we want a home? And it really came to the point where we wanted a home. And so then when we found this house, we made the decision really quickly, which is sort of frightening when you think about it. But I think it was the potential that we saw here, and that we could create something that we really wanted.
Now, you have taken this house down to the studs. When you first looked at it, did you see that happening?
No. Really, when we saw the house first, we thought we would bump the family room out and make it a big space. But the more we talked about it, we thought we would live there, and the living room would be, where a ceremonial room where we would greet heads of state. And nobody. So we just decided to keep the footprint except for a screen and porch, and we haven't changed the footprint at all.
So it's not going to be on the wall where the shower is. You can't do that.
Even though building and remodeling a home were never high on Tom and Dee's to-do list, they realized they had a chance to pretty much start with a clean slate. And with the right people helping along the way, they'd be able to get the home they wanted.
But all of I have never been a person who wanted to build a house from scratch. So this is as close as I'm ever going to get to it. And finding where we're going to increase closet space, how we're going to change the bathrooms to suit our needs. This is a 3-bedroom house. How we're going to use those rooms. We'll turn 1 into a study and keep 2 bedrooms. The problems, the challenges that we've had to deal with have been simplified by the fact that we've got a really good contractor whose point is to finish a house the way we want it. So if we change our mind about something,
right. And his philosophy is this should be fun.
Right.
And you do have to remember
which is a challenge in and of itself.
Which is challenging, right. But we also had dreams. I mean, Tom said, oh, we're going to build this to just exactly, well, I shouldn't say exactly, but to really what we would like it to be.
Yes.
Because this is no doubt the last home that we will live in.
Right. To get the project going, Tom and Dee called designer and project coordinator Carol Edwards, who's been in the business around Springfield for about 10 years.
One day and said that they had bought a new house and that they were interested in using me or someone. They knew that they needed help with the project. So I talked to them one afternoon for about an hour, and we came over to this house and they showed me the house and kind of wanted my thoughts on it. So I gave them thoughts, and immediately when I walked in I knew that it needed a lot of help. It had not been neglected, but it was just dated. And there were dark finishes. This room was really dark that we're in now. This is the current dining room. And it had not been used as a dining room. It was it was a cozy, dark room, but it seemed very cave-like. Mm-hmm. And so we put in a bay window where 2 double-hung windows were. There was just a single door at the end, and so we put French doors in there, and then I love to be symmetrical in design, so we put another set of French doors here that leads out onto a screen porch.
Okay. And the screen porch is a complete add-on. That wasn't even
It's totally an add-on.
Oh.
And the whole backyard has been, updated. And because as you sit here and eat, you'll be looking out in the spring especially, and in the winter too. It'd be a beautiful view of their backyard with snow or flowers, and then on one side we also have the fireplace, so that'll be...
And the fireplace goes through to the living room.
It goes through to the living room.
Okay.
So it's a really pretty architectural feature of the house.
So one of your first thoughts was to open it up with light, not only lighting, but windows as well.
Windows. I love natural light in a house. It totally changes the feel of a house. You can walk into a dark house and it kind of changes your mood. If you're in a very dark house, you get a little bit depressed, at least I do. So I like light. I like natural light, and if you can't do natural light, there are a lot of ways to add light to a house, not only with fixtures, but also with solar tubes so that you can get more natural light in. And there's just a lot of things that you can do to change the feel of a house.
Now, you're working with a couple on this house. What are some of the challenges with meeting both of their ideas and coming up with something that everybody agrees on?
Well, sometimes I feel as if I'm a mediator, because you have to listen to both of them. You have to really get in their head, know what they want in their house. It needs to look as if I've never been there. Just needs to look like it's right, but you don't quite know why. So you have to listen. I think that's the biggest thing, is to listen to them. Sometimes, as all couples do, they disagree.
Sure.
So I have to give my professional opinion. And sometimes one of them wins, sometimes the other one wins, sometimes I win, which is, why they brought me in on the project, is just so that everybody can be happy with the finished project.
Well, and this particular project has gone clear down to an open slate. I mean, you started practically from the beginning, leaving the basic structure of the house intact. So you've got cabinets and just so many decisions.
We
to
have
make, right?
all finishes. We have the quartz countertops for the kitchen had to be decided upon. You decide on lighting, you decide on flooring, you decide on all the finishes, paint finishes. What are you going to do? Natural woodwork? Are you going to do painted woodwork? Essentially, so many things in this house have changed from the way it was when we first walked in.
Well, let's go take a look at one of the changes that you made in the entryway,
Okay.
where you added and changed the way the house was set up.
Okay.
This is the entryway. You said you had to redo this. Tell me what you did.
We did. Initially, when I walked in, the floor here was tile, and it will be hardwood. But right here, where this wall is, there was a low cabinet that almost looked like a base cabinet that was not necessarily of a fine wood, and had just a top on it, and I was really kind of unsure as to what it was really supposed to be for.
Right.
I felt like the house needed to be more of a grand entry, not necessarily grand, but in fitting with the house.
Right.
And it needed to have an actual entry instead of just walking into the living room. And it took a while to get all of that on paper and decide how long this wall needed to be as far as how far it needed to come out, and then how we were going to marry it to the rest of the room, because the house really does have pretty molding in it, and it needed to all match. So the builder actually was able to totally figure out how to prefabricate the moldings that are in here so that they would match what the originals were. But this wall came out, I believe we ended up at like 48 or 50 inches on it, because we needed to put a piece of furniture on the other side of it.
Right.
I wanted it to not only create an entry, but also to be serviceable when you got into the living room.
Well, and you've got
So-
light switches on this side too,
which is
having a
good.
little wall.
Right, exactly. So, you know, this will be a really great entry. We have a piece of furniture that'll go right here that's been in their family for a while. We'll do artwork here, and hardwood floor goes down in a couple of weeks. So,
What is your design philosophy, basically, when you start on a project?
you know, I don't know if it's necessarily a philosophy. I feel like the house needs to look like the people that live there. Needs to look as if Carol Edwards has not been there.
Right.
It just needs to look right. I like for the house to be warm and inviting and fairly classic. I like to do a pretty house. And I think that all houses need to have a heartbeat, because it reflects the family that lives there, and it just needs to feel like they live there, and they need to be surrounded by the things that they love. And I think that, you know, our house is kind of our sanctuary.
Sure.
And it needs to be that barrier between the world and, you know, where we really relax and live. So if anything, I just think that houses, instead of being trendy, they need to be classic and go with colors that are going to work with their furniture. It needs to flow throughout the house. I try to always pick up at least one color in the room and carry it on into the next room so that it actually weaves like a ribbon of color through the house.
Are people afraid of color, do you find?
You know, they used to be a whole lot more than they are now. I do a lot of neutrals, but I also do splashes of color. For instance, in this house, we're doing the walls in a linen white, but we're going to pick up the color in the upholstery, and we're using reds and blues, and blue is just kind of the predominant color that's going to run through this house, and we've done some yellows, and it's a cheerful house because we've added so much light to it.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a house where they really feel like it's home instead of just a house.
There was a real effort to keep the project as local as possible, from the contractor to the flooring to the kitchen. Area companies including Arizona Tile, Connor Company, and Bailey Hardwoods have all had a role in the remodel. Keeping the project moving along was general contractor Eric Adamski. We met up with him just as the kitchen was nearing completion.
Eric, you've been on this project from day one. So from start to what will be finished, how much time has it taken to complete?
We've been here about 6 months.
And when you walked into this house, you had to pretty much redo everything. So take me along that process.
Yeah, we started totally on the outside. Had to redo the whole roof. There was foundation problems. We had to redo brick. We had a leaky basement from all the water this year, seepage, and there was evidence of seepage before, so we fixed that recently. And then we've gone on the inside, gutted a large portion of the house. We left some of the old plaster walls in, but we gutted a large portion, probably 60–70% of it, and did some new framing, new doors, trim, cabinetry. They upgraded the heating system and totally redid the electrical and pretty much the plumbing also. So we touched just about everything on the property.
Right. What, in your opinion, has probably been the biggest challenge of the project?
The biggest challenge is this house is out of square and out of level. And so when you're dealing with that, you have to make adjustments on the cabinetry. It's just more time consuming. You have to put a level to everything, and you have to get it a layout so it looks good. And knowing that the walls are going to stay crooked. We can't change everything there, so you're trying to hide a lot of things. And so it's just a time, and it slows you down as opposed to being on a new house where from the get-go everything should be level and square, and it moves things along much quicker and easier. So when we were hanging the cabinets, for instance, it just took us probably 2 extra days because the floor is out of level and everything, and we're trying to hide things. So it's just a time thing. You just have to work with it and keep your patience about you.
Is the out of level problem something that was existing when the house was built, or is it just because it's old and the house settles? What causes that?
I don't think it's settled. I think it was just, this is a 50s house. I don't know what they used back then. It was pretty primitive stuff, more primitive than what we have. We use laser levels and all when we put new house in and get the foundation really good from the get-go. But there, they will get it somewhat close. I'm not sure how they did it, and it's quite a bit off. There's some settling, which is pretty common with a house 50 years old. But it was out from the get-go, and the squareness and all, and so that's just what you got to deal with.
When you have to make all of these decisions on and I know you don't make the decisions personally, but you probably have some input there on cabinets and appliances and flooring and all that. There is a quality decision that you have to make. So how do you decide what's too much quality, what's not enough quality?
Well, it's kind of up to the owners. I mean, I kind of leave it up to them. I don't try to steer. I give some suggestions, like on flooring. Right. A full 3/4 inch hardwood flooring as opposed to maybe laminate or something like that. And cabinetry is kind of up to them. I just send them over to the cabinet people that I work with and say, you just get whatever you want. And so I steer them in different things, and the trim and all that. We kind of kept the same theme. We left some of the trim in the house, so I matched the old trim coming through the house and all. And the windows were already replaced in here, so there's some things we didn't touch, but pretty much I leave it up to them, and then I'll pick the the quality that goes along with the things that they picked out.
Talk a little bit about the trim work that you did on the outside of the house, because that was a really nice way to finish off the house and to update it.
Yeah. I don't know how long ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, they had the outside freeze board of the house was covered kind of vertical siding, and it kind of didn't look too good. It was to make it maintenance free, because originally it was all wood and painted. And so we took it off, and several of the houses in this area, they have like the dental molding on there, and that's kind of more the theme that this house probably should have had. It looked a little nicer. So I brought them some samples of that product, which is a maintenance-free product, no painting involved. And I said, look at some of the other houses in the neighborhood, give you some ideas also. And then we picked out some things that they liked. We went with shake, vinyl shake for the outside in the gables and on the sunroom. And so that's maintenance free also, and it's a good product. And so we kind of married them all together, and they really like the look. It come out good. So there's virtually no maintenance painting on the outside at all.
Now you don't have a whole lot more at this point to finish on the project, but one of those things is the backsplash on the tile here. So there's a little bit of tiling work still to be done? Yeah,
they're going to tile this whole area there. Behind the hood there. We'll pull the hood off, and they're just going to tile all the way up in there, and then a little backsplash along the counter here. There's another little bit over there by the fireplace for the tile setters to do. And so there's just little things here and there to do, but that's about it for those guys there. I got a little bit of electrical to do, a little bit of plumbing here and there.
Okay, well, it sounds great. I think we'll check out Arizona Tile and see what they have to say about the tile project coming up.
Walking into a showroom can leave you feeling one of two ways, like a kid in a candy store, or completely overwhelmed. Either way, there are still hundreds of styles and products to choose from, which makes working with a designer the way to go, to alleviate some of the anxiety. For the O'Brien home, Angie McElroy offered her expertise. What was Carol looking for when she came to see you?
Well, when Carol came into the store the first time, we kind of looked around, and we wanted to start with the hardwood, which was the important part. We did hardwood throughout most of the house, carpet in the bedrooms, and it was finding something that was time specific for the house. It was finding the right color, the right size, the right shades, the type of wood. We ended up with a solid oak and a mocha stain, which is beautiful down, and it just fits the house. So that was the biggest issue, was fitting the house.
Okay, so once you got the flooring out of the way, then what was the next choice?
The next choice we worked on was the backsplash. And it's, backsplashes can be a little difficult. They give you little samples like this of your countertop.
Right.
So we kind of, they came in, they had a piece of tile that Dee had, and said, this is, you know, where we want to start at. And so we started with that idea and just worked backwards from it. So found the matching field tiles that go with it, and some beautiful decoratives that are going to go behind the stove. So we're really excited about it. It's going to be really pretty.
Kind of like putting together a puzzle.
It's putting a puzzle together. A whole house is usually like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah. So you have some examples of what's going to go into the kitchen over there. Can you show me those?
At Dee's house, we're going to be using this 2.5 by 5, or yes, 2.5 by 5 inch field tile with a liner, not in this color, in this color, and then in this color also. And then behind the stove is the 5 by 5 with the Mexican tiles behind it. So
is it fun to see that all come together once it gets on the walls?
That's the best part of my job. It really is you see all these bits and pieces, and then once everything's done, it's like this beautiful picture that you've created.
Absolutely. You know, I noticed when I walked in here today, I'm overwhelmed with the choices. And I'm sure I'm not alone. People come in here, they know kind of what the project is that they have in mind, but how do you kind of direct them and help them?
Well, sometimes they come in with an idea. You come in with a picture, with a cabinet, with a countertop, with a, my friend did this, I want to kind of do that too, kind of idea. And we can build that around, you pick the one specific part that they want and build on that. And so create their own individual taste and style and put it up there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful piece when it's done.
I know in the O'Brien's home they tried to stay away from trends and just keep with more of the classic sort of presentation. However, a lot of people are interested in trends. What are some of those?
Some trends right now are renewable. The green is real big right now, so we have some carpet that's made from recycled soda bottles. We have carpet that's made from corn. We also carry a selection of bamboo, which is renewable. We have a selection of cork that's also renewable. Some of our glass tiles that we carry are actually recycled also. So there's a lot, and then some of the tiles are, the manufacturers are self-contained. So it's really neat to see how everybody changes.
Are there any colors that seem to be more popular than others right now?
Colors right now are usually very neutral. Typically, neutral is a little bit better whenever you're looking at a large, grand scheme of thing. Staying something a little more brown, a little more cream, a little more beige, a little more taupe, versus doing, you know, we used to do green tile and pink tile, and you know, they don't really do that anymore. So it's more neutral now. Paint's much easier to change than tile is.
Right.
So,
what's one of the most difficult things in the process of helping someone make their decisions on everything that they want?
it's usually the actual decision-making process is the difficult part.
Just landing on something.
It's getting it nailed down. People, when a customer comes in, they check out samples, they take them home. Typically, you'll put it out, and you'll go, that one works, but that one doesn't. And that's a good way to start.
Yeah. Do you have a set of questions that you typically ask to kind of get in your mind what they're thinking?
Yeah, but it's kind of one of those things that you read from. Yeah, you just read from the person.
Yeah. Okay.
So as long as they have some ideas, if they come in and say, you know, I really like this picture, I really like this concept, and we can kind of go from there.
Work from there. We're back now in the basement, near the inner workings of the geothermal system, one of the easier choices the O'Briens had to make in this renovation process. Now, geothermal heat pumps are among the most efficient heating and cooling systems available today. That's because they use the Earth's heat. It's an unlimited natural resource. In fact, the numbers show that homeowners can save up to 70% in heating costs. That's pretty good motivation. Snell Heating and Air Conditioning did the retrofit. Now, they started by replacing some of the ductwork. Then they removed 2 inefficient gas-powered furnaces and replaced it with one streamlined state-of-the-art system. They also drilled 4 200-foot boreholes in the front yard to house the underground piping. Now, the O'Brien system is unique in that it's a dual-fuel setup. It uses electricity when the temperature outside is in the normal range, but during extreme cold, a gas-powered furnace kicks in. About 95% of the load is handled by geothermal. It's called hybrid heat, and it's the most efficient system on the market today. Well, the renovation is pretty much complete. The tile is finished, the walls and floors are done, and the window treatments are up. So we're going to head upstairs to have one final chat with Carol. It's been about 7-8 months in the making from start to finish. How do you feel about it now that it's done?
You know, I'm really happy with it. I'm happy with the way that it turned out. You pick out elements for a whole house individually and over a period of time of, you know, like you said, 7-8 months. And then when it all comes together, you hold your breath a little bit and it typically works out. But I'm really happy with the way that we were able to take this house from a 50s house and just freshen it up a little bit. It hasn't lost any of the integrity of the architecture, but it's definitely way more functional than it was when the O'Briens purchased the home.
When the project extends over that amount of time, is it difficult to fit all the elements together, you know, with it a little bit here, a little bit there? Is that difficult?
Well, it can be. I mean, I carry samples in my car. Typically in the back of my car there's enough samples that you could build a house. But you just keep making color references, you keep, you know who your vendors are, you know the people that you can depend upon, you know that they have your back, you know that in the end it's those people that make me look good. It's, you know, it has nothing to do with me. It's who I'm working with, and it makes it all come together. And this has been so much fun because the O'Briens were so much fun, and we're really, really just dream clients to work with. And we laughed a lot. You know, we had a few moments that are always tense, as you have on projects like this, but for the most part, I feel really, really good about it, and really enjoyed the whole process.
How much longer before they get to move in?
I think they will be able to move in any time. I'm anticipating that they'll probably be moved in, pictures hung, all of the window treatments up in a couple of weeks.
So it'll really become homey.
It will be homey. It will definitely be homey then.
All right, Carol, thank you. Well, that's all we have time for on today's program. We'd like to thank Carol and the O'Briens and Eric Adamski for all of their help in putting this program together. For all of us, I'm Becky Cramblit. Thanks for watching.
If you have questions or comments, email us at inlife@wsec.tv. This program is brought to you in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and through the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you. Funding for art segments on inLife is provided by the Illinois Arts Council, a state agency. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.